The courtroom is dead silent. Mira Lawson sits motionless, her hands trembling just enough for everyone to notice. Daniel leans toward his lawyer, his whisper deliberately loud enough to carry. "Told ya, she's emotionally unstable." All eyes turn to Mira. She keeps her head down, shoulders slightly hunched. But if you look closely at her eyes, they're ice cold, sharp, calculating. Let them think I'm broken, because when that lawyer asked me one question, I ended everything he'd planned. Atlanta, Georgia, summer heat pressing down on perfectly manicured lawns and white picket deceptions. Mira Lawson had just been promoted to project manager at a Fortune 500 logistics company. 32 years old, sharp as a blade, and careful with every dollar she earned. The house? She bought it. The car in the driveway? Hers. The carefully managed retirement account? Also hers. Daniel Lawson, her husband of 6 years, was a marketing consultant. Charming at parties, quick with compliments, the kind of man who could sell ice to penguins, and later sell a completely fabricated version of reality to anyone who'd listen. And that's exactly what he started doing. It started small, too small to notice at first. Mira would set her keys on the kitchen counter. Every night, same spot, same routine. One morning, they weren't there. "Daniel, have you seen my keys?" He looked up from his coffee with concern that felt almost rehearsed. "Babe, you're forgetting things a lot lately. They're in the bathroom. You left them there last night." She didn't remember putting them there, but she brushed it off. A week later, her phone charger disappeared from her nightstand. Daniel found it in the pantry. "Mira, are you okay? You've been really scattered." Then her favorite coffee mug vanished. Daniel discovered it in the garage. "Maybe you're stressed from work. It's okay to admit you're overwhelmed." But Mira wasn't overwhelmed. She was meticulous, organized. Something felt wrong. At Daniel's sister's barbecue, Mira overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. Daniel's mother speaking in hushed tones to his sister. "He says she's been struggling. Mood swings, forgetfulness. He's trying to be supportive, but it's taking a toll on him." Mira stood frozen behind the patio door, a plate of untouched potato salad in her hands. She wasn't forgetful. She wasn't having mood swings. But Daniel was telling everyone she was. Over the next month, Mira started paying attention, really paying attention. Daniel would provoke arguments late at night when she was exhausted from work. Small jabs. "You're being irrational. Why are you so emotional about this? See, this is what I'm talking about." Then he'd apologize in public, play the devoted husband. "She's going through something right now. I'm just trying to be there for her." Their friends started looking at her differently, with pity, with concern, like she was fragile glass about to shatter. At her own family dinner, her cousin pulled her aside. "Daniel mentioned you've been struggling. Are you getting help?" Getting help? For what? That night, Mira sat in her car in the driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. Her hands gripped the steering wheel. And then it clicked. Daniel wasn't worried about her mental health. He was building a narrative. Mira drove to her Aunt Thelma's house the next afternoon. Thelma was 60, sharp-tongued, and survived 2 divorces with her dignity and bank account intact. "He's setting you up," Thelma said, pouring sweet tea on her front porch. "Men like Daniel don't suddenly become concerned husbands. They become concerned when they want something." "What does he want?" Thelma looked at her over the rim of her glass. "Everything you've built, and an excuse to take it." That night, Mira did something she'd never done before. She checked their joint bank account, the one they barely used except for household expenses. $4,000 missing. She checked the statements, multiple transfers over 3 months. Small amounts, 50 here, 100 there. all sent to an account she didn't recognize. Her stomach turned. She opened Daniel's laptop while he was in the shower. His email was still logged in, and there it was. Messages to Rachel Jennings, his coworker, the one he'd mentioned casually a few times. Just someone from the office. By next month, she'll lose everything. The house is mine. We can finally start fresh. Mira read the message 3 times. Start fresh. He was planning to divorce her, take the house she paid for, move Rachel in, and he needed Mira to look unstable so no one would believe her when it all fell apart. Mira closed the laptop, walked calmly to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror. She could confront him, scream, cry, fight, or she could play along. So that's exactly what I did. I became the unstable wife he wanted everyone to see. But while he was busy destroying my reputation, I was building a case that would destroy him. And it all came down to one moment in that courtroom. One question, one answer, and Daniel never saw it coming. Stick around for part 2, because when his lawyer tried to humiliate me in front of the judge, I handed her something she didn't expect, and it changed everything. If you're hooked, hit that subscribe button, because the next 10 minutes, that's where Daniel's world starts crumbling. And trust me, you don't want to miss it.
Daniel thought he was the mastermind, spreading lies, hiding money, planning his perfect escape with his mistress Rachel. But while he was playing checkers, I was setting up chess, and the game was about to begin. Mira became exactly what Daniel wanted her to be. At dinner with his friends, she stayed quiet, spoke softly, let her sentences trail off mid-thought. "You okay, Mira?" someone asked. She smiled weakly. "Just tired. Work's been a lot." Daniel squeezed her hand, looked around the table with sad, understanding eyes. "She's been working so hard. Sometimes I worry she's pushing herself too much." Everyone nodded sympathetically. Mira said nothing. But later that night, while Daniel slept, she photographed every document in his home office. Bank statements, emails, text threads with Rachel, a copy of their prenup with handwritten notes in the margins about how to challenge her mental fitness. She backed everything up, 3 USB drives, cloud storage, sent copies to Aunt Thelma. Daniel escalated. He'd start arguments late at night, accuse her of things she didn't do, push her buttons until she raised her voice. Then he'd record her. "See, this is what I'm talking about. You're out of control." Mira noticed his phone always angled toward her during these fights. So she started recording too. Hitting voice recorder in her purse, phone on the kitchen counter, screen dark but mic active. And Daniel? He said things he'd later regret. "If you just admit you're unstable, this'll be easier for both of us. Rachel deserves this house more than you do anyway. No one's gonna believe you. I've already told everyone you're losing it." Every word recorded, saved, time-stamped. Mira hired a forensic accountant quietly, paid in cash, used a referral from Aunt Thelma's lawyer friend. Within 2 weeks, she had a full report. Daniel had been siphoning money for 5 months, not just from their joint account, but from shared investments. A total of $18,000 transferred to Rachel's account. He'd also taken out a credit card in Mira's name, without telling her. Racked up $6,000 in charges, all at expensive restaurants and hotels, with Rachel. The accountant's report was devastating, detailed, court-ready. Mira locked it in a safe deposit box. 2 months into Mira's performance, Daniel finally made his move. He came home from work with papers in his hand and guilt on his face, badly performed guilt. "Mira, we need to talk." She looked up from her laptop, letting her face fall into something vulnerable, fragile. "Daniel, please, I can do better. I'll get help." He shook his head, all fake sympathy. "I've already filed. My lawyer will be in touch." Mira let a single tear roll down her cheek. Inside, she was smiling. Daniel's lawyer was Carla Jennings, no relation to Rachel, but just as ruthless. Sharp suits, sharper tongue. She'd built her career destroying unstable spouses in court. Carla sent Mira a letter demanding she vacate the house. Given your documented emotional instability and inability to maintain financial responsibility, my client believes it's in everyone's best interest that you relinquish your claim to the marital property. Mira read the letter twice. Then she called a lawyer of her own. Not just any lawyer, Marcus Chen. Quiet, calculating, known for taking apart aggressive divorce attorneys piece by piece. "Do you have evidence?" Marcus asked during their first meeting. Mira slid a USB drive across the table. Everything. Marcus opened the files, his eyebrows raised. Then he smiled. "Mrs. Lawson, this is bulletproof. He's going to regret every lie he told." The custody and asset hearing was set for November 15th. Mira wore a simple gray dress, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked exhausted, deliberately. Daniel sat with Carla, confident and composed. Rachel wasn't in the courtroom, but Mira knew she was waiting outside. Judge Harrison entered, 50-something, stern face, reputation for despising liars. Carla stood first. "Your Honor, my client seeks full ownership of the marital property, citing Mrs. Lawson's inability to maintain stable employment or emotional health. We have testimony from multiple witnesses regarding her erratic behavior." She gestured to a lineup of Daniel's friends and family, ready to testify. Mira's lawyer, Marcus, simply nodded. "We'll reserve our response, Your Honor." One by one, Daniel's witnesses took the stand. His sister. "Mira's been acting strange for months, forgetting things, snapping at people." Her mother. "I'm worried about her. Daniel's been trying so hard to help." His best friend. "She's not the same person. Something's wrong." Mira sat quietly, hands folded, head slightly bowed, playing the part. But Marcus didn't cross-examine. He just took notes. Daniel whispered to Carla, loud enough for the room to hear, "See? Told you. She's not even defending herself." Carla smirked. Judge Harrison looked at Mira with something unreadable in his eyes. Finally, Marcus stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Mrs. Lawson to the stand." Mira stood slowly, walked to the witness box, sat down. Carla leaned forward, ready to pounce. And that's when everything Daniel had planned started to fall apart. Because the moment I sat in that chair, I stopped being the broken woman Daniel wanted me to be. And when Carla asked me the question she thought she'd finish me, I didn't just answer, I destroyed him.
Part 3 is where it all explodes. The question, the evidence, the moment Daniel realized he'd lost everything. Don't click away, because what happens next is the most satisfying takedown you'll ever see. Hit that like button if you're ready to see Daniel crumble, and subscribe, because the final part drops the hammer. Let's go. Voiceover. For months, Daniel told everyone I was unstable, forgetful, emotional, broken. He needed me to be broken so he could take everything I'd built. But the moment his lawyer asked me one question, I stopped pretending. And I ended him. Mira sat in the witness box, hands folded calmly now. No more trembling, no more weakness. Carla Jennings stood, smoothing her blazer, confidence radiating from every pore. "Mrs. Lawson," she began, her voice dripping with condescension, "when did you first notice your emotional instability?" The courtroom went silent. Daniel leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. He thought he'd won. Mira lifted her head slowly. Her eyes met Carla's, then swept across the room, to Daniel, to the judge. back to Carla. When she spoke, her voice was calm, clear, steady as steel. The moment I married a man who needed me to be unstable, so he could justify cheating, stealing, and lying to this court. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's smile vanished. Mira reached into the folder Marcus handed her. "Your Honor, may I present evidence?" Judge Harrison leaned forward. "Proceed." Mira pulled out the first document, a bank statement. "These are records from our joint account. Over the past 5 months, my husband transferred $18,000 to an account belonging to Rachel Jennings, his co-worker, the woman he's been having an affair with." She slid copies to the judge. Carla's face tightened. Daniel whispered urgently to her. She can't." Mira continued. "Here are text messages between my husband and Miss Jennings. In them, he explicitly states his plan to make me appear mentally unfit, so he could claim ownership of the house I purchased before our marriage." She read aloud, her voice unwavering. "By next month, she'll lose everything. The house is mine. We can finally start fresh." More gasps. Someone in the back row whispered, "Oh my God." "Your Honor, I also have audio recordings." Marcus set up a small speaker. Daniel's voice filled the courtroom, recorded during one of his late-night provocations. "If you just admit you're unstable, this'll be easier for both of us. Rachel deserves this house more than you do anyway. No one's gonna believe you. I've already told everyone you're losing it." The room erupted in murmurs. Judge Harrison slammed his gavel. "Order." Carla stood, her voice sharp. "Your Honor, this is—" "Sit down, Miss Jennings," the judge said coldly. She sat. Mira turned to face Daniel directly now. "You want to know when I first noticed my emotional instability, Carla? It was when my keys started disappearing from the same spot I left them every night. When my phone charger ended up in the pantry. When my coffee mug mysteriously appeared in the garage." Her voice grew stronger. "My husband didn't think I was unstable. He made me look unstable. He staged every single incident, hid my belongings, provoked arguments late at night when I was exhausted, then recorded me when I finally snapped. He told his family, our friends, even my own relatives, that I was struggling, that I needed help. And here's the credit card he opened in my name without my knowledge. $6,000 charged at hotels and restaurants, all with Rachel." Daniel's face had gone pale. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "And finally, Your Honor," Mira pulled out the last document. "This is our prenuptial agreement. The one that clearly states the house remains my separate property. But here," she pointed to handwritten notes on the margin, "are my husband's notes, written in his handwriting, which I can have verified. Notes about how to challenge her mental fitness and establish pattern of instability." She looked at Daniel. "You didn't want a divorce because we weren't happy. You wanted a divorce because you thought you could manipulate the system, manipulate everyone, manipulate me." Her voice dropped, but it carried through the silent courtroom. But the woman he called unstable? She was watching, listening, documenting every single thing. Judge Harrison removed his glasses. His face was a mask of controlled fury. "Mr. Lawson?" Daniel stood shakily. "Your Honor, Sit down." Daniel sat. "In 30 years on this bench, I have seen manipulation. I have seen lies, but rarely have I seen someone attempt to systematically destroy another person's credibility for financial gain with such premeditation." He looked at the documents spread before him. You tried to gaslight your wife. You stole from her. You committed fraud by opening credit in her name. You conducted an extramarital affair and used marital funds to support it. And you came into my courtroom expecting to be rewarded for it. He turned to Mira. Mrs. Lawson, I apologize that you had to endure this. Your evidence is clear, comprehensive, and damning. Then back to Daniel. Mr. Lawson, you are awarded nothing. The house remains Mrs. Lawson's separate property as outlined in your prenuptial agreement. You will repay every dollar you stole, plus interest. You will assume full responsibility for the fraudulent credit card, and you will pay Mrs. Lawson's legal fees. He paused. Additionally, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential fraud charges. You're dismissed. Daniel stumbled out of the courtroom, Carla hurrying after him, her face red. Mira stood calmly, gathering her documents. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. You did it. Outside, Aunt Thelma was waiting with a smile. Told you, baby. Men like him always underestimate women like us. Rachel blocked Daniel's number the same afternoon as the hearing. His friends stopped returning his calls when they realized he'd lied about everything. His family apologized to Mira. She accepted, gracefully. Daniel moved into a studio apartment across town, alone. Mira kept the house, got a promotion, started dating again, on her own terms. And every time someone asked how she stayed so strong during the divorce, she smiled. I just played the part he wrote for me, until it was time to write my own ending. And that's how the woman Daniel called unstable became the one thing he couldn't control, the one thing he couldn't manipulate, the one thing he never saw coming. His biggest mistake? Thinking I was too broken to fight back. I wasn't broken. I was planning. If this story hit you the way it hit me, do 3 things. 1, hit that subscribe button because I've got more stories where revenge is served ice cold. 2, drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Mira's position. And 3, share this with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated, that's your greatest weapon. Thanks for watching, and remember, never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one gathering all the evidence. See you in the next story.